God is so good. I'm going to tell you, life is hard. Life is real hard. For some people, not for all, but for some people, life is very difficult. And what I just witnessed hurt me. I'm going to tell you, it hurt my heart. Because it shouldn't be. But in the type of world that we live in, it happens. I am a sufferer. I love the Lord with all my heart. But I'm going to tell you one thing. I won't be suffering no more because of some damn church lies. The hypocrisy of the church is plumb sickening. Now you listen to this story and see, don't it make you damn sick on your stomach? That's why the church has to change. It must. Why are you going to sit up in the church and suffer? That's not freedom. That's bondage. It is time for change. And I really mean it. Why sit in church and be miserable? Many of us have done it. I've done it. It's because of the hierarchy of the church. It's got to change. That European slave ship, we coming out of that thing. We're going to change. I mean, you can say Jesus, but Jesus ain't bound being trapped up in misery. You got to express yourself and be yourself and free yourself, children. You hear me? And these white folks got us all bound up in church. We coming off that joint European slave union ship, and we're going to get free. You hear me? If you don't, that's on you. You need to be re-educated, actually. A lot of the things that we've been taught in church is not so. Homosexuality is not a sin. I know you've been told that all your life, and I know you read it in the Bible. Yes, it's in there. When did it come in there? 1946. Yes. Your Bible is a European created Bible, okay? Now you can get insight from it. Yes, you can. But you need to know some other things too, all right? You need higher consciousness in the Most High. And you need to learn how to self-master yourself, okay? That's what Yeshua did. It's a lot to learn. A lot to learn to get correct. But we're going to get there. Yeah, we're going to get there because things are really going to get better. But listen to this story. It's so heartbreaking. We got to be delivered. We have been psychologically messed up. We have been programmed. And that program does not work with our mentality. And it's not real. It's an illusion. Now listen to this. Homosexuality is not a sin.
He called himself the Forgotten Child. A young man has just come forward claiming to be the hidden son of gospel legend Donnie McClurkin, alleging years of secrecy, rejection, and shame, all because of the church. What's more shocking? He says McClurkin was forced into silence by religious leaders who couldn't accept the truth. What was the church really hiding? And why was this young man erased from the gospel narrative? The answers will shock you. When you think of Donnie McClurkin, you think of worship, of redemption, of a voice that carried broken souls to healing, a Grammy Award-winning gospel icon, pastor, and survivor. His story has always been one of overcoming. But now, a young man has emerged claiming to be his secret son, and the story he tells threatens to rewrite everything we thought we knew. This isn't just a personal scandal, it's an expose that stretches deep into the heart of the gospel music industry and the rigid, often painful expectations placed on Black men in ministry. According to this young man, he was hidden, not because of shame from his father, but because of pressure from the church. He claims that Donnie was silenced by church leaders, threatened with backlash and rejection if he ever acknowledged his son publicly. And when you hear what this young man says happened behind closed doors, you'll understand why gospel music's biggest names have been eerily silent. In this video, we're breaking it all down. The alleged hidden child, the culture of image management in the gospel world, the church's harsh stance on sexuality, and why Donnie's silence may not have been his choice after all. And you'll want to stick around because the twist that comes near the end, it might just change the way you view gospel leadership forever. Before the allegations, before the headlines, before the pain, there was the voice. A voice that moved churches into revival and brought stadiums to tears. A voice born out of trauma, shaped in worship, and polished through years of spiritual warfare. Donnie McClurkin wasn't just another gospel singer. He was a testimony in motion. Raised in Amityville, New York, Donnie faced tragedy early. At just 8 years old, he lost his younger brother to a car accident, a trauma that shook his family to the core. Not long after, he was sexually abused by relatives, leading to years of emotional torment, silence, and confusion about his identity. In many ways, Donnie's entire career would be marked by a constant tension, redemption versus reputation. His rise in the gospel industry was meteoric. From humble church choirs to working with legends like Andrei Krush, to his 1996 hit Stand, which turned him into a household name, Donnie's music became a lifeline for those battling brokenness. But with success came scrutiny. As his platform grew, so did public curiosity. Donnie made headlines not just for his music, but for his open, complex discussion about his past struggles with sexuality. While he never publicly identified as gay, his statements often danced a fine line, talking about struggling with same-sex attraction and being delivered from it through faith. That very topic became a polarizing issue in the Black church, where discussions of sexuality remained controversial, especially among male clergy. Donnie's authenticity won him some fans, but also made him a target. Despite his accolades, multiple Grammys, BET Awards, and Dove Awards, Donnie was often placed under a microscope. His appearance on TV shows, his relationships, and his decision to remain unmarried all became fuel for speculation. Still, he never cracked, at least not publicly. But what if there was something or someone he was hiding all along? And what if that silence wasn't just personal, but the result of calculated pressure from
Calculating pressure from the church hierarchy.
But with success came scrutiny. As his platform grew, so did public curiosity. Donnie made headlines not just for his music, but for his open, complex discussion about his past struggles with sexuality. While he never publicly identified as gay, his statements often danced a fine line, talking about struggling with same-sex attraction and being delivered from it through faith. That very topic became a polarizing issue in the Black church, where discussions of sexuality remained controversial, especially among male clergy. Donnie's authenticity won him some fans, but also made him a target. Despite his accolades, multiple Grammys, BET Awards, and Dove Awards, Donnie was often placed under a microscope. His appearance on TV shows, his relationships, and his decision to remain unmarried all became fuel for speculation. Still, he never cracked, at least not publicly. But what if there was something or someone he was hiding all along? And what if that silence wasn't just personal, but the result of calculated pressure from church leadership desperate to protect an image? Because that's exactly what the young man who's come forward is now claiming. And it's time we explore his side of the story. It began with a short video on a barely known TikTok account. Just a face, raw emotion, and a voice shaking with nervous energy. In the clip, a young man, let's call him Jordan to protect his identity, looks directly into the camera and says 6 words that shook the gospel world. Donnie McClurkin is my father. At first, it didn't gain much attention. TikTok, after all, is filled with outlandish claims. But Jordan wasn't speaking for clout. His video wasn't flashy. He wasn't promoting anything. He wasn't asking for fame. He was simply telling his truth, and it was heartbreaking. In a series of follow-up videos, Jordan laid out his story. According to him, he had been told by his mother from a young age that his father was a well-known gospel figure, It wasn't until his teenage years that she finally told him the name, Donnie McClurkin. Jordan claimed that for years he had watched his father on TV, heard his songs in church, and even seen posters with his face, knowing deep down, that man is my dad. But here's where it gets complicated. Jordan said his mother had once been involved with Donnie during a time when he was transitioning between major career moments, right after his big breakout, but before he became a global gospel ambassador. She never sought money, never filed for paternity. According to Jordan, she protected Donnie's image even when it hurt them both. Jordan eventually tried to reach out. He allegedly contacted McClurkin's team through email, through social media, even through intermediaries in the gospel world. But each time, he says, he was either ignored or told, this isn't something Donnie can address publicly. Jordan revealed a heartbreaking detail. They told me the church wouldn't accept me. But each time, he says, he was either ignored or told, this isn't something Donnie can address publicly. Jordan revealed a heartbreaking detail. They told me the church wouldn't accept me. They told me the church wouldn't accept me. Wouldn't accept me. He claimed they told me the church wouldn't accept me. He claimed that individuals close to Donnie told him it would destroy his father's reputation, that the gospel community would turn on him, that acknowledging a child out of wedlock would stir controversy, especially because it would resurrect old questions about Donnie's sexuality and celibacy commitments, and the emotional toll? Devastating. That the gospel community would turn on him, that acknowledging a child out of wedlock would stir controversy, especially because it would resurrect old questions about Donnie's sexuality and celibacy commitments, and the emotional toll? Devastating. Jordan admitted to battling depression, anxiety, and feelings of worthlessness. It's not just that he didn't raise me, he said. It's that he didn't even want the world to know I exist. He shared family photos, screenshots of alleged emails, voice notes that sounded like handlers shutting down the conversation. And while Donnie himself has not responded publicly, the silence only made the claims feel louder. Supporters of Jordan began demanding answers. Gospel blogs picked up the story. Twitter lit up. Some called Jordan a liar. Others called him brave. But the question remained, why would a young man publicly expose himself to ridicule unless he truly believed he was telling the truth? And if what he says is true, why has Donnie stayed silent all these years? But here's the twist Jordan dropped in his final video, one that changed everything about how we see Donnie's possible silence. He claimed he had proof, not just emotional words, but a DNA test, and even a gospel executive who allegedly confirmed it in private. Just when the story seemed like it might fade into another internet rumor, Jordan returned, this time not with a story, but with what he called the proof they can't deny anymore. The young man uploaded a now viral 6-minute video titled, "This is for the ones who called me a liar." And this time, he brought documents. At the center of the video was a blurry but readable screenshot of what appeared to be a paternity test report. The name Donald A. McClurkin was listed as the alleged father. The result? 99.4% probability of paternity. The test, Jordan claimed, had been taken privately with a DNA sample collected through non-legal means, facilitated by a mutual connection in the gospel industry. Now, let's be clear, no court documents have been presented, and Donnie McClurkin has not acknowledged or denied the result. But what makes this so alarming is that Jordan didn't stop there. He claimed that after submitting the DNA sample, he was personally contacted by a high-ranking gospel executive who had worked with Donnie for over a decade. According to Jordan, that individual told him, "Don't push this story. It will hurt him. You don't want that on your hands." Jordan, holding back tears, said he interpreted that as a thinly veiled threat, an attempt to protect not Donnie's heart, but the gospel brand. Because here's the darker side of this story. Within many Black gospel institutions, there's an unspoken rule. Image is everything, especially for men like Donnie, who had previously opened up about struggles with homosexuality. Being publicly tied to an out-of-wedlock child would be seen by some as confirming confusion, backsliding, or worse, hypocrisy. And according to Jordan, that's exactly why he was silenced. He claimed to have multiple voice memos, including one where a church administrator allegedly said, "We don't need another scandal in the gospel world. Keep this private or you're going to bring shame to his name." One of those clips, which made its way to YouTube gossip circles, has a muffled voice warning, "We've covered this for years." Donnie has made it clear, don't stir the pot. But who is we? Jordan's implication was clear. A group of leaders, PR handlers, and gospel insiders were all aware of the situation and worked together to cover it up. And that claim sent shockwaves across gospel fans online. Twitter threads exploded with comparisons to other gospel figures who'd been protected or shielded at the cost of transparency. The question no one could answer: if the DNA is real, and if the church knew, why was Jordan left to suffer in silence for so long?
Is that freedom? No, that's not freedom. Absolutely not. And it's disgusting. I call what the church does disgusting.
Why was Jordan left to suffer in silence for so long? The implications are massive. If proven true, it would mean that Donnie McClurkin, an internationally respected pastor and artist, was pressured into denying his own son in order to maintain an image shaped more by fear than faith. And as more receipts came out, the silence from gospel leaders grew louder. But it wasn't just about Donnie anymore. What this revealed was something far more disturbing: a system built to protect gospel platforms, even at the cost of people. And Jordan wasn't the only one ready to speak. Jordan's revelations shook the gospel community, but skeptics still questioned him. Where's the proof that the church knew? Where are the witnesses? Well, that answer came faster than anyone expected.
What business is it of yours? What damn business is it of yours? That's ridiculous. And you call it living true to holiness and righteousness when you have to cover stuff up like that? The truth is the truth. And sex people have it, right? Of course they do. And why does the church tell so many damn lies and call itself holy? It's not holy because it's a liar. The American church that have been indoctrinated into this country needs to be torn down, and it needs to be reconstructed and put in the right order and put in place. What we got ain't shit.
Artist was pressured into denying his own son in order to maintain an image shaped more by fear than faith. And as more receipts came out, the silence from gospel leaders grew louder. But it wasn't just about Donnie anymore. What this revealed was something far more disturbing: a system built to protect gospel platforms, even at the cost of people. And as more receipts came out, the silence from gospel leaders grew louder. But it wasn't just about Donnie anymore. What this revealed was something far more disturbing: a system built to protect gospel platforms, even at the cost of people. A system built to protect gospel platforms, even at the cost of people. A system built to protect gospel platforms, even at the cost of people. And Jordan wasn't the only one ready to speak. Jordan's revelations shook the gospel community, but skeptics still questioned him. Where's the proof that the church knew? Where are the witnesses? Well, that answer came faster than anyone expected. A few days after Jordan posted his alleged DNA evidence, a woman who identified herself only as Sister L came forward in a now deleted Facebook Live. But not before screen recordings and reposts sent it viral. In the emotional video, Sister L, a former longtime choir coordinator at Donnie McClurkin's church, dropped a truth bomb that left the gospel community stunned. "I'm not here to start drama," she said, "but I can't sit quiet anymore. We all knew about the boy. We were told to keep it quiet." According to her, Jordan had once been brought to the church quietly in a closed-door meeting with Donnie's staff. She claimed this happened roughly 5 years ago, and that she personally saw the child escorted out a side door to avoid questions. She continued, "Donnie was emotional. I could see it on his face. But leadership told him this couldn't come out, not with everything he'd been through, not with the spotlight on him. They said, the church won't survive another scandal with everything he'd been through, not with the spotlight on him. They said, the church won't survive another scandal, not with the spotlight on him. They said, the church won't survive another scandal." What's more chilling? Sister L said this wasn't a one-time event. There were at least 2 internal meetings among select staff and leadership where the topic of the son was brought up, only to be immediately shut down with phrases like, "That's a personal matter. We protect the man of God." If this leaks, it will ruin decades of ministry. It's not our place to judge. It's our job to cover. Cover, not confront. not reconcile, just cover. And when Sister L allegedly raised concerns, fearing what this secrecy could do to the boy's mental health, she said she was told, "Leave it alone. God will handle it." The phrase, "God will handle it," so often used to dismiss accountability.
Exactly. That is just sick.
Over what now appeared to be deep, organized neglect. And it wasn't just Sister L. After her video surfaced, 2 anonymous former ministry volunteers sent private DMs to gospel media pages echoing her account. One wrote, "We knew. Everyone on staff knew, but we were told not to ask questions. And no one wanted to be the one to bring Donnie down. But here's where it hits harder. According to multiple insiders, Donnie himself never denied the boy in private. In fact, one even claimed Donnie tearfully confessed, 'I want to do right, but the church ain't ready for this.' Let that sink in. According to multiple insiders, Donnie himself never denied the boy in private. In fact, one even claimed Donnie tearfully confessed, 'I want to do right, but the church ain't ready for this. I want to do right, but the church ain't ready for this.' Let that sink in. A father willing to step up, but silenced by a culture more invested in protecting pulpits than healing people. It was no longer just a scandal. It was a reflection of something deeper, darker, and far more damaging. But the church ain't ready for this. Let that sink in. I want to do right, but the church ain't ready for this. But the church ain't ready for this. Let that sink in. A father willing to step up, but silenced by a culture more invested in protecting pulpits than healing people. It was no longer just a scandal. It was a reflection of something deeper, darker, and far more damaging. A church system that punishes honesty, especially when it challenges purity politics, sexual image, or male leadership standards. Church ain't ready for this. But silenced by a culture more invested in protecting pulpits than healing people. It was no longer just a scandal. It was a reflection of something deeper, darker, and far more damaging. A church system that punishes honesty. A church system that punishes honesty. It was no longer just a scandal. It was a reflection of something deeper, darker, and far more damaging. A church system that punishes honesty. A church system that punishes honesty, especially when it challenges purity politics, sexual image, or male leadership standards. And at the center of it all stood Donnie, once a victim of abuse himself, now entangled in a heartbreaking echo of silence and shame. But while gospel leaders stayed quiet, Jordan wasn't done speaking. And his next move? It wasn't just bold. It was public, loud, and designed to force the church to respond. After months of emotional videos, blurred screenshots, and secondhand whispers, Jordan took the fight directly to the gospel world. No more subtle hints. No
Good
more
for
shaky
you,
videos
Jordan.
from the car. This time, he penned a long-form open letter titled, "To the church that taught my father to hide me."
Wow.
No more shaky videos from the car. This time, he penned a long-form open letter titled, "To the church that taught my father to hide me." To the church that taught my father to hide me. To the church that taught my father to hide me. The letter was uploaded to Medium, reshared on Instagram, Twitter, and even linked by multiple gospel blogs. What started as a desperate plea from an invisible son now exploded into a call for accountability from an entire generation raised under the image-obsessed legacy of gospel celebrity. Here's what Jordan said in that now viral piece. "I don't want fame, I want a father. I want my story told because there are thousands like me. Kids born into silence because the church teaches shame more than it teaches grace."
And that is what my art is with the church. The church made me suffer. Oh, yes. And we suffered mental abuse. Not only me, thousands in the church are suffering right today. You told them that homosexuality was a sin, and that was a damn lie. You've told them so many damn lies. It's about higher consciousness, not praising somebody. Not a damn joint European slave unionship. Certainly not that. We're going to reconstruct this thing, and we're going to get it right.
Kids born into silence because the church teaches shame more than it teaches grace. He described in brutal detail the years of emotional abandonment, his silent birthday nights, and the countless Sundays he sat in churches that worshiped Donnie's voice, while ignoring the reality of the boy who couldn't speak his name out loud. But Jordan didn't stop at emotions. He issued direct demands, a public acknowledgement from Donnie McClurkin, not necessarily for the world, but so he could finally reclaim his identity. A statement from church leadership, addressing the culture of silence, shame, and reputation over restoration. A wider discussion across gospel spaces about mental health, fatherlessness, and the cost of church-based image control. The letter hit hard. Within 48 hours, hashtags began trending. Where's the grace? Our Jordan deserves truth. And church cover-ups. Young gospel fans began stitching their own stories, talking about how churches protected male leaders at the cost of truth, women, and children. Jordan's story sparked something deeper, a reckoning. Suddenly, respected voices in the gospel space began to crack open the door. A few lower-level pastors began posting cryptic messages. Grace is greater than image. Sometimes the silence is the scandal. Some even reposted Jordan's letter with captions like, "This hurts, but it's necessary." Still, Donnie McClurkin remained silent. No tweets, no press release, no mention in sermons, nothing but a growing vacuum that made the silence feel like guilt. And yet, the world was listening. Jordan's courage had done what no tabloid ever could. It humanized the scandal. It turned what many assumed was another messy gospel rumor into a heart-wrenching portrait of what happens when public praise leaves private wounds unattended. But the most shocking reaction? According to an inside source at a major Christian TV network, Donnie McClurkin was approached to do a private interview to finally address the issue. Allegedly, he declined, citing emotional readiness. Instead, a family member, possibly a cousin close to Donnie's side, posted this cryptic message online. You don't know the whole story, but sometimes protecting peace means holding silence. Which raised one final burning question. Is Donnie McClurkin protecting himself? Or is he protecting the church that trained him to stay quiet, even when it cost him the chance to be a father?
Especially to aging black male actors who don't play the Hollywood game. What is on record, though, is their confirmed collaboration later in Tate's career. After a quiet stretch in the 2000s, Tate re-emerged in several projects connected to Tyler Perry's empire, most notably his appearance in The Haves and the Have-Nots, one of the flagship shows under Perry's own network deal. Perry was the creator, showrunner, and executive producer. Tate was a featured star, front and center again after years of operating beneath the radar. In Hollywood, actors often stick with directors and producers they trust. But some believe this pairing wasn't just business. It was personal. Online sleuths, gossip forums, and even longtime fans have pointed out the oddly timed overlaps between their careers. Just as Lorenz's mainstream momentum began to slow after the early 2000s, Tyler Perry's dominance started to rise. Perry, who had built his own studio in Atlanta and secured his own distribution pipelines, didn't need to answer to Hollywood gatekeepers. He could cast whoever he wanted, and time and again, he chose actors with whom he had deep, private rapport. Those who didn't just need a job, but who needed protection. The whispers intensified when Tate started popping up in shows and circles closely aligned with Perry's productions. It wasn't just casting, it was access. Tate seemed to resurface only when Perry's platform expanded, and unlike many of Perry's actors who did press runs, panels, and appearances, Lorenz kept it low. No interviews, no behind-the-scenes clips, just enough to be present, but never enough to be seen. That calculated distance didn't go unnoticed. Rumors soon swirled, first in coded gossip blog entries and blind items that spoke vaguely about a famous black director and a 90s heartthrob hiding a decades-long relationship. Names were never dropped, but the comment sections told a different story. Again and again, readers zeroed in on Perry and Tate, and the theory was always the same. The public-facing careers, the radio silence on their personal lives, the professional intersections, it was all part of a well-constructed cover. a system designed to allow them to remain close without drawing too much attention. What made the rumors even harder to ignore was how deliberately both men avoided talking about relationships altogether. Lawrence Tate, despite being married to Thomasina Parrott for years, rarely appears with her in public. There are barely any photos, even fewer quotes. He gives polished, friendly interviews. But when the topic shifts to love, marriage, or even gender dynamics, he sidesteps with grace. Some fans took this as a healthy boundary. Others saw something else. A man trained to protect something bigger than just his marriage.
And so I stay away from her and I sleep in a different room, so she doesn't get pregnant because she always gets pregnant.
One of the most persistent claims involved reports that Lorenz and his wife sleep in separate rooms, a detail that would be insignificant for most couples, but in this context became gasoline for the fire. Why would a man famous for playing passionate lovers avoid even the appearance of romance in real life? Tyler Perry, meanwhile, has become a master of silence. Despite decades of tabloid speculation, he has never publicly acknowledged any romantic partner beyond vague references. He's played iconic roles like Medea, exaggerated, often gender-bending, and yet steers interviews away from personal or political identity discussions. His refusal to confirm or deny anything has created a vacuum that fans and critics alike fill with their own narratives. And that's where the dots start to connect for some. Two men, both talented, both powerful, both intensely private, both in control of their public image, both with timelines and career moves that seem to rise and fall in tandem, both surrounded by a haze of mystery, and both working subtly, carefully, just beneath the surface of mainstream speculation. To some, it's all coincidence. Just two successful men who guard their privacy. But to others, it looks like a pact. A bond forged not only in creative trust, but in secrecy, loyalty, and something even deeper that the industry and the public was never meant to see.
Keep on bitching about my taste, man. God damn, that shit gonna happen.
The public wants to know, don't they? They want to know so much about private people's life, so they speculate. What if we start living out loud? Could you handle it? We're getting ready to do that because we're getting ready to change some stuff around here. The church structure is wrong. Wrong things are taught. It's a mess. But we're going to get it right. We're going to do it till we get it and get it right and get it right. Oh, yeah. Till your knees start smoking. Because it's got to get better.